here we are with a fresh start on our view about money. We need to hit reset, a refresh on how we view money. So this is how I want to start. I want to picture this. Like, you have to picture you sitting in a church service, and it comes time for that moment of the offering. And for many people, that's an awkward moment. You feel guilty. There's regret, maybe of spending that you have, or you don't have more to give. And so you either just put your head down and endure, or maybe take out a few dollars and drop it in. But there's this moment of awkward. You just don't like that moment. I want you to picture yourself in that church service, ready to give. That means not reluctantly, no regret, no emotion. You came with a heart of faith. That's the picture that we need to have for everything I want to communicate to you today. So I want to start with two scriptures and then move forward with biblical principles of how we view money. Let's hit restart. Let's get ready for a fresh start. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6. Without faith, it is impossible to please God, for God rewards those who diligently seek Him. So God responds to faith, not emotion, not need, but faith. The second principle here, Philippians chapter 1, verse 6. For I am certain that God, who has begun a good work within you, will continue His work until it is finally finished, until the day of Jesus Christ. Now, how many of you believe that God has more for you? More blessing, more of Himself, more presence. Those are the two principles that we need to launch forward in when we talk about money. Now, talking about money, I know that the church talks about this, and a lot of people say that, but you don't say that. So I'm not even going to go there right now. See, as a church, we care about your mental health. We care about anxiety and stress. We want to do everything we can to get you connected to God so that you have less anxiety and less stress. We care about marriage. We care about family. We care about your home, and we care about your future. God cares about all these things too. And money is intricately woven into every one of those things. That is the truth here. Now, let's start with some just a concept. More money will not solve your problem. More money will make you more of what you are already. That's right. If you're miserly and you don't give, more money is not going to create you to become generous. If you're already generous and you tithe and you give and you're a very giving person, more money will make you more of that. If you're already have anxiety over the future, you have anxiety over money, more money will just make you more anxious here. If you're just getting by and you're frustrated with where you are, more money is just going to help you just get by and help you be more frustrated. So we have to get out of our mindset that more money is going to solve our problem. Now, Natalie and I, over the years, over the decades here, we've learned how to have a lot, and we've also learned how to be content with very little. We know what it's like being in government food lines, getting cereal or cheese or different foods from the government because we qualified for all those government programs. We learned how to do that. And it wasn't an embarrassment to us. We had to do what we had to do to get by. So we've learned how to have a little, and we've learned how to have a lot. It hasn't changed who we are. We were always the same people through these things and through these times because of our biblical view of money. You see, our calendar and our spending reveals our values. It reveals our core values. So if I were to look at your week, this week, June, the first week in June, every day, if I were to look at that and you were to write in how you're spending your time and how you're spending your money, we would see your core values, just like you would see mine. And so we're not just talking about looking backwards, we're talking about a fresh start always looks forward. So we want you to look forward, not backwards over your shoulder during this time. Your monthly calendar reveals core values. So just like we've already covered, budgeting your time, budgeting your priorities, we're going to talk about budgeting your money, telling your money where to go. So here we go. A fresh start with money. A fresh start with money will include 4 steps of faith. Every one of these steps has faith involved, because without faith, it's impossible to please God. How many of you believe God has more? God has more for you. God has more of himself, more of his presence, more of who he is that he wants to reveal to you. Number 1, you live on a written budget. Number 2, get out of debt, stay out of debt. Number 3, save and invest. Then number 4, give generously. Not even actually giving, it's living generous, living a generous life. And how do we get there? See, all 4 of these require faith. And all 4 of these require a disciplined life. So therefore, all 4 are going to be a significant step to get to the point where we can view all of our money as it belongs to God. So let's just talk about different mindsets here. Different mindsets. Let's reveal some mindsets that will help us launch into these 4 steps of faith here. Number 1, it all belongs to God. That's right. See, we are stewards. We are not owners. See, when I belong to God, physically, spiritually, relationally, emotionally, everything belongs to God, not just the spiritual stuff here. Jesus, in the Bible, spoke over 30 parables. Now, some people say it was right at 30. Some people say like there was 33 parables, depending on how you read a couple of them in different gospels here. So we know there's over 30. The common denominator in all of his parables speak of stewardship. Stewardship. That means stewarding money, stewarding our time, stewarding our gifting. So as we review these things, we need to listen. We need to look at stewardship as is God is the owner. I am the manager here. Now, number 2, hope is not a strategy. Hoping for something to change is not a strategy. Waiting for the lottery, is not a strategy. Hoping that you hit on the number is not a strategy, So hoping for something to change will not make it change here. Here's another mindset. Money is a tool, not the goal. Money is a tool God gives us that we can use for him. It's not the goal to obtain. See, many people, they have a mindset that I want more money. That's the goal. Again, more money will not solve your problem. It's going to magnify whatever problems you have in your life. That's what more money does. So money is a tool that God uses in our lives when we look at it with a biblical mindset. And that's what we want you to have here at Bridge City Church, is a biblical mindset about money. That's it. So there's 4 biblical principles that we talked about, steps of faith when it comes to a fresh start on money. Remember, don't look back. We're here to look forward. Let's look at the first step of faith. The first step of faith that we have is living on a written budget. Living on a written budget. Let me read to you 3 verses out of Luke 16, verse 10. Red letters, Jesus' words here. If you are faithful in little things, you will be faithful in larger ones. But if you are dishonest with little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. And if you are untrustworthy with worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches of heaven? If you are faithful with other people's things, why should you be trusted with things of your own? These three little principles here are so important about living on a budget, being faithful with little things. God gives more here. Now, living on a written budget takes faith. This is one of the number one problems that even Christians have of living on a budget. And on your screen, there's a QR code to get access to a written budget. There's a lot of them out there. You can Google budget sheets. You can print them. You can fill them in online. Listen, this one's not magical. It's just one to use. But a budget, remember, is telling your money where to go. It's not just reviewing where your money went here. So see, a budget's like this. Like no team shows up at the World Series or the NBA Finals or the Super Bowl and says, wow, just not sure how we got here. I was just walking down the road and boom, here we are at the Super Bowl. See, nobody does that. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of hard work. That's what it takes. As a matter of fact, a quote from an old NFL coach, a legend, Tom Landry, it takes a lot of unspectacular preparation to get spectacular results. A budget is unspectacular, but it produces great results here. See, if you plant corn, you get corn. If you plant tomatoes, you get tomatoes. If you plant a budget, you get peace. You tell your money where to go. It's a principle of sowing and reaping. If we sow discipline, the result will be what discipline produces here. So a budget is telling your money where to go. It's planting discipline in our lives. See, discipline is a primary result of being a disciple of Jesus, being a follower of Jesus. We have discipline in our lives. Discipline lives. Now, let me give you an example. When you have a budget, when you have a written budget, you start, Natalie and I, we start with giving. We start with giving generously. I'm going to get to that later on. But then you can say, this is what the mortgage is, our utilities, insurances, groceries, what it takes to have a household, clothes. You tell everything where it goes here. So vitally important here. So let me just say this. It takes faith to face reality. And that's why many people don't want to face reality. They get scared, and they get scared of a budget. They stare at the budget sheet, and they just can't do it. Budgets produce peace. Budgets produce discipline. See, those of you that have children, don't ever tell your children when they say, hey, can we stop at Dairy Queen or can we go to McDonald's? Don't say, we don't have any money. We don't have money like that. We're not like the family down the street. We're not like others. We don't have money. Don't say that. See, when you have a budget, what you say is, we are choosing not to do that because we're choosing to do something else. See, a budget is a choice. A budget is facing reality and telling your money where to go. That's what we do. We do it with our time. We do it with our money. We do it with our gifting and our purpose in life here. So a fresh start with money will always require the step of faith to get a written budget. Living on a budget tells your money where to go. I'm urging and pleading with you to start there. Number two, the second step of faith is to get out of debt, stay out of debt. Now here's your verse, Proverbs 22:7. Just as the rich rule the poor, so the borrower is servant to the lender. Many translations say a slave to the lender. Now think about this. MasterCard. What is your master? How about this? The American Depressed card. If you use that long enough, you're going to get depressed. And Visa. Visa. Who wants a visa to the country of nowhere, going nowhere? Think about those things every time you pull out that card to use it here. So listen, get out of debt. Get out of debt. And I'm not talking so much about mortgage, but when you do get a mortgage, make sure that you're not overspending. If you listen to what the bank says you should borrow, subtract it by about 10%. That's where you should live. Because the banks are telling you you can borrow and have a mortgage payment with taxes and all at about 35-40% of your salary. Don't do that. Get it down to about 20% if possible here. But get out of debt, stay out of debt. Think about all the stress that money has. Each and every day, we think about money. Everybody thinks about money each and every day. Money and stress and anxiety that it brings is it's up there, number 1, 2, or 3, depending on what survey you look at. When it comes to stress and fights in marriage, it's always up there, 1, 2, or 3. Biggest problems. One of the biggest problems of divorce here is just getting overextended in debt. For those of you that have student loans, pay them off as quick as possible. Stop looking for a government handout or government relief. Now, listen, if they're offering that, I say take it. But stop banking on it and stop waiting for the government to take care of it. You be responsible. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. If you borrowed the money, that's what you should do, is pay it back here. If you have no extra payments on debt, then you have more money. Okay. Now, Dave Ramsey, all these principles come from every biblical stewardship and every biblical financial help strategist out there. This is what they're telling you. They're all biblical principles here. There's ways to pay off debt. Start with your lowest one, pay it off quickly. Mortgages, I understand mortgages, not expecting you to pay your house cash. Cars, you can pay cash, or you make sure that you can handle the payment. It's not burying you, and then pay it off as quick as possible. Pay extra, pay towards the principal as much as possible. Pay it off quickly. The way to stay out of debt is called delayed gratification, not instant gratification. And we live in a day and age where instant gratification is the goal. That means I want it, I see it, I want it now. That's why that's why Amazon, I see it, I want it, click. We're getting online things like that, and that becomes the goal here. It's delayed gratification. Now, a few years ago, actually over 5 years ago now, Natalie and I, we found ourselves in some debt. Not proud of it, not happy with it. It happened. I couldn't get regretful over the past. It didn't stop us from giving generously, but it was a problem. I felt like a slave to the lender. What we did at the beginning of the year, we decided we were going to pay off this debt. So we were already paying double what they were asking for, and then even triple on some cases to pay off the debt. And at that point, we owed about $16,000 over and above our mortgage, which was the only other debt we had. We accumulated about that much. We were already paying so much ahead, but we still weren't paying it off quick enough. So what we decided to do together, we decided that we were going to drive for Lyft. Okay, and so we both did it together. Natalie did it. I carried the lion's share of that. I would go out in very early mornings before work, or take some times on the weekend when we had downtime, and I just did it part-time. In 1 year, we were able to pay off that whole debt. Now that means we still gave 10% to God, paid for all of our expenses, paid taxes out of that, and had that much extra to pay that off. And actually, it took less than 1 year. Actually, we paid that off. What I'm trying to say is, we can't hope that we get there. We have to have a strategy to get there, and we need to be purposeful in what we're doing to get out of debt here. Younger families, don't compare what you have with others. That's one of the biggest problems that you're going to have. Like, stop comparing what took other people 20 years to accumulate, and you're comparing and you want it now. It's just easier. We'll pay it over time. We'll pay it over time. Don't do that. So steps of faith, a fresh start with our biblical view of money will include steps of faith. Number 1, written budget. Number 2, stay out of debt. Get out of debt, stay out of debt. Number 3, save and invest. Here's your verse, Proverbs 21:20. There is precious treasure and oil in the house of the wise who prepare for the future, but a short-sighted and foolish man swallows it up and wastes it. Okay? In this time that this was written, in time of Proverbs, there were the very, very rich and the very, very poor. And what we're saying here is we got to prepare for something. Save and invest. An emergency fund, a rainy day fund. Jesus promised in Matthew 7 that it's going to rain. You're going to need a rainy day fund here. So take something and begin to put it aside. Many of the biblical financial stewardship strategists say get about $1,000 in the bank. That really doesn't even go far anymore. That's just emergency. So if some emergency, and even if you weren't expecting your car to need brakes, but we all know they need brakes, or something breaks down at home, you have money to pay it. You don't have to put it on a card. Okay, so save and invest. First, get $1,000 in the bank. Then have another goal. Make it $2,500 in the bank. Then $5,000. See, if you don't have a goal and you're not putting something towards that goal, it will never happen. So save and invest. Start with what you have, where you are, and watch God make up the difference here. Now, when we're saving, that means we have a future and a hope. A future and a hope. People that have a future, people that have a hope, people that know that God who begun a good work in them will be faithful to complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. Put something aside. Listen, put something aside for short term, for that rainy day. Put something aside for maybe moderate term. And then put something aside long term. That means put something towards retirement for those of you that are young. Even $100 a month over time goes a long, long way to helping you get to your goal of being old like Pastor Rick here someday, and you were thinking about retirement, or you're thinking about a change in income, where you're not stressed out over that. So do something to save and invest here. Okay, have a goal, put it aside. That is a step of faith that you have a future. So a fresh start with money includes 4 steps of faith. Number 1, a written budget. Got to have a written budget. Number 2 is get out of debt, stay out of debt. Debt is evil, okay? Number 3, save and invest for your future. If you will take those 3 steps of faith, this next one is really, really simple, and it's really going to help you. And that is to live and give generously. 2 Corinthians 9:7. You must decide in your heart how much to give. And don't give reluctantly or in response to pressure. For God loves a person who gives cheerfully. That word cheerfully is where we get the word hilarious. It's ready to act because you're already persuaded. This is just hilarious here. So we need to decide that we're going to live and give generously here. See, we don't need to live in regret or don't need to live in response to pressure or reluctantly. We decide in our hearts how much to give. This is a step of faith here. Now, so today we want you to take steps in your giving. A tithe. What does a tithe mean? Tithe means 10%. That means move the decimal. Okay, out of every $100, that's 10. Out of every $10, that's $1. Out of every 1,000, that's 100. That is a tithe. That's 10%. A tithe is returning to God what is already His. It's not giving, it's returning here. When Natalie and I tithe, when we tithe together, it keeps us grounded in faith, because without faith, it's impossible to please God. There are two reasons, the two biggest reasons why people do not tithe, give 10% plus of their income. Number one is fear. They just have fear ruling their lives. I don't have enough. There's just fear, doubt. God won't pull through for me. Number two, the biggest reason is undisciplined lives. That means a life that doesn't have a written budget, is not out of debt, that doesn't have a saving and investing for the future, just undisciplined. They don't even know where their money's going. Getting to the end of the month and they're not tithing, they're just tipping God. They're tipping God. If they had a good week, they tip Him. A couple dollars here, $5 here, $10 here. And they're giving out of responses emotionally or reluctantly or regretfully, not out of deciding in our heart here. Malachi chapter 3. Will a man rob God? Yet you are robbing me. You say to God, hey, how have we robbed you? In your tithes and contributions. Catch that. Tithes and contributions. You are cursed with a curse. You are robbing me, the whole nation of you. Verse 10, bring the full tithe, that's 10%, into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house, and thereby put me to the test. God is saying, test me in this. Try me. See how faithful I'm going to be here. If I will not open the windows of heaven for you and pour down a blessing, and so there's no more need. God says, I will rebuke the devourer for you. Okay? That's God saying, I got your back when you do this. I have decades of experience with this in continuing to give generously, tithing and contributions above that. God has protected us, provided for us in the most supernatural ways possible. There's times that we don't understand how God's doing it, but He does it over and over and over and over and over again. God blesses sowing and reaping to the kingdom of God here. So God, basically, when you're tithing and you feel like the world's overtaking you, God's the one that looks at the devil and says, stop it. Be quiet. God rebukes the devourer for us when we bring the tithe, 10%, into the storehouse here. Now, roughly, statistically in the United States, when it comes to Christians, followers of God, only about 7% of the people actually tithe. That means only 7% of the people who call themselves Christians are experiencing God being the blesser, the open windows of heaven. Wow, that's a lot of people. And typically in a church like ours, about 7 out of 10 people are having trouble getting to the point where they can give 10% to the storehouse, which I believe is the local church, and experiencing an open heaven. Luke 16:11. Let me read this verse to you again. And if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches from heaven? What are true riches? I believe true riches are joy, peace, righteousness, self-control, kindness, gentleness, the fruits of the Spirit. I believe true riches are experiencing the presence of God with peace on our lives. True riches, things that money can't buy. confidence, faith. I believe a church where God's pouring out his blessing. That's an open heaven. I believe that's an open heaven that you and I both want to experience, but we're having trouble because of undisciplined lives, and we're having trouble with fear. I wish I could tell you there was a way to deal with your fear other than just dealing with your fear. Move the decimal, watch what God will do. You will experience God in some tremendous way here. See, this is the way we get to the point where we're living fun, we're living joyful here. Tithing is returning to God. When we give God our first and our best, the rest will be blessed. It works with our gifting, our time, and our tithe. Give God first. Watch what he will do here. Living generously. There are 4 levels of giving. 4 levels of giving. One is occasional. Occasionally you drop a few dollars. This is tipping God. A couple dollars, we have a couple dollars. Or, hey, maybe get on the website. Let's give $10, $15, $20. And we may do that here. Next is we move to consistent. Maybe we say, I'm going to give $50 a week. And so it's $50 a week. You go on the website or give text to give, however it is you do it. You're just going to give consistent. The next level of faith. See, all of these are faith. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. The next level here is tithing, taking a step of faith. And I'm inviting you who have never experienced an open heaven, true riches, to move the decimal point, give to the storehouse. I believe that's the local church, okay? Give there. Watch what God will do. The next level is generosity. Generosity is above and beyond the tithe. That's what this is. Take your next step of faith. Now, I want you to picture something else. I gave an example earlier about picture you in church, no longer awkward, no longer fearful. The offering comes and you're just hilarious. You're already persuaded. That's cheerful. Now I want you to picture yourself, where is it that you shop? Walmart, Aldi, Giant Eagle, Shop and Save, wherever it is. Let's picture you there. Let's picture you're there and you see maybe it's a young mom, maybe it's somebody elderly, anybody in between. You see somebody and you can tell they're putting things back because they can't afford them. And they're legitimate things they have. And you feel that tug on your heart. You feel a tug in your heart that you need to do something. Because here's a young mom with kids and she's putting back like chicken, or she's putting back something that they really need. If we're not living in faith with a written budget and getting out of debt and saving and investing and already giving, tithing and giving generously, well, you just, that's too bad. But just think of yourself in that grocery store and you see that happening. And you already have budgeted money to give away like this. You're already living generous. And so you know you have so much money a week. And you take a look and maybe it's $20 that they need to buy that chicken or rice and some vegetables for dinner. And you picture yourself just walking over there and putting those back up there, giving them $20 or walking up and saying, paying it with, your debit card or however you pay. And you did that because you were ready to give in that moment. Similar to you're sitting in church and there's an extra offering for missions. And you already have it budgeted. You already know you're generous. You already know how much to give. So you're already there. You're already giving that way. Picture yourself there in the joy that you would have, not wondering, I can't do this or I can't do that, or I might not be able to get tires on my car. No, you're already giving because you have it prepared. That's living and giving generously above the 10%. That's where God wants you to live. And it has very little to do with how much you make a year. It has to do with steps of faith to get there. You can live and give generously, and it will take faith. That's what it is. So I'm inviting you to take a step of faith with your life. But most of all, I want you to take a step of faith with your whole life. God, all of my life belongs to you. My physical health, my spiritual health, my relational health, my emotional health, all belongs to you. I want you this week to make a plan to give and live generously because you've done those three things. Watch what God will do as you hit reset, refresh, fresh start with a biblical view of money. Hey, thank you so very much for joining us. I hope this is helpful for you today. And next week, we're going to be talking about an interesting thing. It's Pentecost Sunday. Pentecost Sunday, that's next Sunday here. We're going to talk about its significance in the book of Acts, chapters 1 and 2, what it meant for them and what it means for us today. Looking forward to uncovering that with you.